everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Carolyn Talks, Here's What Happened podcast. I'm your host, Caroline Hines, film critic and journalist. And this is the podcast YouTube channel where I speak to film creatives about their work, the industry, and what inspires them. And today I am joined by actress Bella Piero to talk about her portrayal of the character Virginia in the Brazilian narrative. I would call it a thriller intense drama because this film is very tense. In My Drywall Cocoon, directed and written by Caroline Fioratti. Now, if you've seen my previous episode for the South by Southwest Film Festival, I spoke to Caroline and actress Mari Oliveira about their process in the film. And today I'm going to have Bella all to myself to talk about Virginia and her perspective on the film and the story. And I have so much to ask you about this character because Virginia broke my heart.
I'm so sorry.
But she also kind of frustrated me too, because, teenagers. But as usual, before I get into talking about the film, I'll just ask Bella to say a bit about herself and what inspired you to become an actress, and then what led to you working on My Drywall Cocoon with Caroline.
Okay, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here with you. It's really important for me, and it's a pleasure. Okay, I began my career when I was 7 in theater. So I prefer to say something more transcendental, I've never had a plan B. So I spent over 10 years performing in professional plays. And then when I turned 17, I began my audiovisual career. So I did a bunch of series and soap operas. One of the most famous and that gave me the biggest visibility was one called The Other Side of Paradise, where I played Laura, and with her we approached like a sexual abuse theme, and with her scenes we could triple the numbers of complaints all over Brazil. And then I had my first experience performing in a film that is called My Last Wish by Arnaldo Jabor. That is an iconic, it was in fact an iconic director, writer, and person. It was really a milestone in my career to play Lou on his movie. And that was because of Lou that I was invited to perform Virginia in My Drywall Cocoon, because it was from the same executive producer. So he just saw me inside of a scene and thought, she might play Virginia, and here I am.
Now you said something there that kind of surprised me. So you said opera, so that means you're a classically trained singer as well.
Sorry, I didn't get you.
You said you went in theater, you also did opera and singing as well?
No, soap opera, sorry.
Oh, soap opera.
I can't sing. I'm awful.
Oh, no. Hey, at least there's always karaoke, right? But how? Okay, so talk about the transition from theater to soap opera, because I think that's an interesting interesting shift. Because I know for the stage, like when you're acting on stage, you have to project a bit more because the audience is further out, and you're trying to make sure that everyone is able to see you and relate to you and feel what your character is feeling. So what was it like for you to transition from working on the stage and then going particularly to soap operas? Because soap operas, and I know particularly for Latin American and South American soap operas, and like telenovelas as they would call them in some countries, are extremely dramatic. They're extremely dramatic, and sometimes the acting to people in North America, it might be seen as over the top acting, but it works for that genre because the stories are so ridiculous and outlandish sometimes. Like all the amount of backstabbing, deaths, betrayal, like you need to have like these exuberant portrayals. So what was the shift like for you from stage to soap opera and screen?
Okay, oh my gosh, it's such a good question. I think it's all about size, the content, the internal content is the same. So you just exchange your way to communicate your emotions. So at Arnaldo Jabor film, it is in fact a more near-realistic film. So it was closer to a theatrical performance for me. But My Drywall Cocoon is, you just saw, it's like a completely a realistic lens of our reality. So it's pretty naturalistic. So it was more about sensoriality. And I think we begun through surrealistic images, because first of all, it was like an exercise that Carol proposed us to do. And second of all, because I really believe they can turn to palpable some emotions that we can explain. And that's exactly how people with depression report to feel. So I think one of the main goals of Carol's narrative is to allows people to feel, not just only to understand with their minds. So for me, to play Virginia was like a journey from skin and words.
Yeah, the thing about Virginia, that character, she takes such a journey in like the story, because at the beginning we're starting with her being excited and planning for her 17th birthday, and the film kind of opens with her having an argument with her mom Patricia, and that me being an adult, but I have also been a teenager, but me being an adult, I could see where her mother's hesitant to leave this teenager alone to run this party that's going to be filled with other teenagers. And it's interesting, but that's the interesting thing about it is like in hindsight, you know, like now that we're grown and everything, we can see where Patricia's coming from, you know, but as teenagers, we just see our parents telling us no, as them trying to hold us back, and that they're trying, and in the case of the party, trying to stop us from having fun, and, you know, trying to like embarrass us in front of our friends and everything. But Virginia, at the beginning, you just think she's spoiled, you know, you just think that she's this girl that her mother has given in way too easily, you know, and you just think like and for me, when I was watching at the beginning of the film, I was just thinking, Virginia, this is not a good idea, you know, like how are you and the way she was treating Patricia was kind of like, it was kind of like very, in a sense, very disrespectful, you know, because I was just thinking, your mom is excited for you, you know, your mom is spending all of this money on a party, like be grateful a little bit.
Exactly. But oh yeah, we built like a microcosm of the white privilege and an artificial security with false walls that kind of try to protect those teenagers from their own social bubbles.
Yeah.
And they were constructed by a sick society and politics that left them completely hostage from their complex minds. And they are all the time struggling against their own monstrosity. What I'm trying to say is like, they're good people who do horrible things. And talking about specifically Patricia and Virginia, throughout all my research, in a way, finding a way to talk about depression and her bipolarity, I found endless metaphors about water and how they connect with mothers. So in my understanding was closer to being inside of a uterus, you know. Of course I can remember it, but I just put myself into an exercise of sensory memory. And oh my gosh, probably it's there that the parents' presence starts, the importance of parents start. And clearly Patricia didn't give any of this to Virginia. She just wants her to be like a brand new version of herself. And Virginia, the same way, wants to be the opposite of her mother, feeling guilty because she wanted at the same time, she felt her mother deserved a better daughter. And she was angry because she wasn't able to be herself, even with her mother. So, you know, I selected, Carol proposed me an exercise to write a letter for Patricia, and I selected a part that says like, I feel shrunken and fetal position inside of my mom's uterus, and I feel that she didn't want to have me.
Mm. And what was Carolyn's reaction to that when you wrote the letter?
Oh, we did a intensive preparation, also with Maria. That's incredible, and we were pretty intimate to connect and construct all of those layers. And I think we can see somehow those layers inside of their eyes. And even knowing that Patricia and Virginia have like only 2 scenes, I think.
Yeah, they didn't have many scenes together.
No.
But their scenes, but those 2 scenes, I think they say so much about the characters and about their relationships and their dynamics. And especially in the first scene where we see where they're talking about the party and they're having this argument, and they're talking about Virginia wanting to go on this vacation with oh my God, why am I Luana, sorry, I drew a complete blank on the name just now. I was saying Lulu in my head. I'm like, Lulu is wrong. But with
no,
Luana,
it's okay. It's her nickname, Lulu.
Right. And so like again, this is another example of where like Virginia isn't seeing where her mother is coming from, because like what parent would let 2 teenagers, especially 2 young teenagers, because they're just 17 years old, travel halfway across the country to go somewhere where they don't know anyone for a vacation, you know, especially like a beachside location. And again, it's a scene where it's the same thing with the party where eventually Patricia's like, she kind of like gives in because she just wants to do everything that Virginia wants, you know, and she gives me the idea of she desperately wants her daughter to not love her, but like her, you know, because there's a big difference between like and love. You can love someone and not like them. And she wants Virginia to like her.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I totally agree with you. They have like a mutual attraction, and in a awkward way, they I don't know, but I think Virginia loves her mother, but it's also hard to don't feel like integrated.
Yeah, it is hard, and I think it's especially hard in the environment that they live in, because like as we talk, like the whole thing about the film is set in this one location, which is the condominium. And it's one filled with wealthy people and people who in their own ways are isolated from the reality of situation of the world, you know, of Sao Paulo, Brazil. Like they live in this little social ecosystem where they're all showing off for each other. And I think in a way that affects Virginia and Patricia's relationship. Like you mentioned, like in the letter you wrote, you said that she felt like she was being kept in a womb, you know, right? You know, like she's being what's the word? Like the word I would use is possessive. So it's like she's being smothered by her mother. And in a sense, there's that sense she feels smothered by her mother, but I think she also feels smothered by the environment as well, you know? Like she's trapped in this building.
For sure. And at the same time, she wasn't able to communicate herself. She didn't know how to do it. She didn't know. So, and it's because it's harder, like it's hard to look inside of us and to get in touch with our monstrosity and with our shadows. So yeah, growing up is part of, I do think, is part of knowing that we are going through some uncomfortable moments and that we probably don't want to, but it's going to be worthwhile to experience all of this and maybe to eat some cockroaches that Virginia didn't, she wasn't able to eat, but sometimes we do really have to.
Yeah, and so now I want to talk a bit more about, like, you're talking about the monstrosity of this character, like the shadows of her, and it's true, Virginia, all of these characters have some very dark aspects of them, and it's not to do with like mental illness, like you mentioned, like Patricia's bipolar, like Virginia very clearly has depression, And
Mhm.
for Luana, she's struggling with jealousy. She's jealous of Virginia. She's jealous of where Virginia lives. She's jealous of her relationship to her mother. And she's also, I think, jealous of her relationship to the boyfriend, Martin. And
Nicholas. Yep.
what Nicholas, Lord help me today. With Nicholas, my apologies. And so that's the darkness that's within Luana as well. So all of these characters, like Nicholas himself has some very dark moments, and we're gonna get into that because that boy, ooh, he's a lot to handle.
Yeah.
But even in Virginia, her monstrosity, I think, is the way she treats Patricia, but it's also this sense of competition that she has with Luana. So I want to talk about their relationship because their relationship, the thing about this film is I think it focuses a lot on relationships between women and girls and like friendships, because there's a relationship between Virginia and her mother. Then there's the relationship between Virginia and Luana, but I think there's also the relationship between Virginia and Xiomara, you know? So like she has these three main important relationships between females in her lives. And
Yeah.
I want to talk about Luana because I'm going to talk about her a bit more. So I want to talk first about the relationship between Virginia and Xiomara. I think she kind of sees Xiomara as who she wishes her mother could be, in the fact that Xiomara trusts her. And she thinks that Patricia doesn't trust her.
Yeah, I think Virginia finds comfort and with Samara. You know, Samara kind of noticed some perspectives of Virginia that Patricia completely is unable to see it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they have like a safe space to be real.
Yeah, they do. She provides a safe space for Virginia, and interestingly enough, for Luana as well, because there's a scene with her and Luana where you see that these two, and they're also the only two Black women in the film, but you're seeing these two women and being comforted together, and you see that Xiomara is kind of like the mother figure that both girls want, because Luana doesn't have the support from her own mother she needs, because her mother can't look after the way that she needs to be looked after. So she's finding it in Xiomara. And I think the beautiful thing about this film with even just the name of the title, like the title can refer to how I told Caroline that the name kind of like works almost like as a coffin because of what happens to Virginia at the end. But I think like a cocoon is also a safe space, you know. It's a space for like butterflies and moths to like be safe before their metamorphosis. So I kind of see Mara as like the cocoon for both Luana and Virginia.
That's beautiful. Yeah, me too. I do feel it.
Yeah, because the more I was thinking about it, and even here talking to you, like the thing with I think Xiomara is the one character that really sees everyone the way they are. She sees all of these characters in a way that no one else sees them, and because she's kind of like this outside observer, and she's able to like look at everything in perspective, you know. But the thing is, because she's just a housekeeper, she's a maid, like none of these rich people are going to listen to her, but she's the one who's like paying all the attention, and she's seeing all of the things that can possibly go wrong.
For sure. That's amazing. Yeah.
And in talking about all the things that can go wrong, now for Virginia and Luana, these two girls, like I relate to them so much, because the relationship between girls is very special, and it's very layered and nuanced. And the thing with a film like this, and with a director and a writer like Caroline, and the performances that you and Mari gave, like you guys show so much complexity in these two girls, in their relationships, and in the things that they are similar in, and the things that they're also very different in. And to me, that's one of the things I love when you have female writers and directors writing stories about female friendships, because they get all of the nuance, you know, they get all of the little things that people would overlook, but like we as women and as females would notice. So like talk first about working with Caroline and Mari for developing the relationship between Luana and Virginia.
Okay, so wow. Okay, I'm kind of thrilled right now, just because of your text, but yeah, we worked intensively to lapidate all of those characters, and with like raw and unique layers. And what I mean saying raw, without any mask that we often use when we are like being in a relationship with someone, to protect our weakness, to protect our secrets, vulnerabilities. So we built their cocoons. And I think all of those layers brought humanity to the script and allowed people to really reflect on their own masks, vulnerabilities, and cocoons. So yeah, talking about Luana and Virginia, girl, it was like a intense relationship because they had like a multiple vectors within their relationship. Virginia completely envies Luana's life, personality, relationships, and otherwise Luana's envies Virginia's life. But together they can experience a lack of sadness and reality doing drugs. Together they dream, for example, Chekhov's dream of finally find a place and run away into it, and where they could be accepted, happier, and more free. So yes, they have like a multiple and mutual tension and passion for each other. At the same time, Virginia could be taken care by Luana, and she also takes care Luana. And because I think in a maternal way, because they didn't find in their own mothers, so they have like a maternal layer of relationship. At the same time, they have pleasure for manipulate each other. So it was intense.
Yeah, like I see what you mean about the maternal aspect, because it's like Luana looks after Virginia a little bit, like she's the more mature one. She's the one that wants them to run away, so that I think in a way, so that she could look after someone that she wants to look after, because she doesn't want to be looking after her own mother, because she's like, you're an adult. Why do I have to be looking after you? Why do I have the stress of looking after my own mother, having to worry about her medication, all these things. And for Virginia, she kind of sees Virginia as like someone that she could look after the way she wants, like she can kind of mold Virginia into the person she wants her to be. And like you said, like both girls are envious of each other, but the thing is that they don't even realize that they are. We, the audience, can see that they're jealous, because there's little things that like one of the scenes that really tripped me out was when Luana put on the bathing suit. And it was like I'm like, first, you brought a gift for someone for her birthday party. This is your best friend. This is your BFF. And you're going to give her a bikini and you're going to put it on. I'm like, what? Because like, I told Carolina and Mari, like, I have a twin sister. Like we argue about clothes up till this day. We've always been arguing. But clothes are like, people don't understand, unless you know girls and relationships, we take clothing very seriously. And we can share, but like the rule is between me and my sister is like, if I buy something new, I have to wear it on first. Like you can't wear it before I do.
Okay.
And so then when Luana put on the bathing suit, I was stripping her because it's a brand new bathing suit you bought for this girl. But to me, I saw that, right? I was like, but to me, that scene was so subtle between you and Mari. Like you guys play that scene perfectly, because there's a sinisterness to it, there's a slight edge of darkness, because the comments that you both make to each other begins to get darker and more vicious and more catty and more insulting. And to anyone who doesn't know how girls talk, it'll just seem like they're talking about their bodies, and which is a really intense conversation in and of itself, because they're talking about being confident in their bodies and their sexuality. But there's this sense of like, I'm saying the meanest thing that I could to hurt you, even as I'm saying that I love you. Right. So I want you to talk about doing that specific scene, because to me, that scene was one of the most intense scenes of the whole film.
Yeah. Wow. You totally got it. It was, we worked exactly how you just described it. fulfilling the scene and the lines with some subjective perspectives that could really hurt Luana and Virginia. You know, their love, their the way that they could love each other is by hurting themselves. And specifically talking about Virginia, I think it's hard to say it, but because for sure it isn't easy to be inside of all of those toxic relationships, but there wasn't anyone that could hurt her more than herself. So being inside of those passive aggressive relationship reinforced somehow her point of view of being useless.
Yeah.
And I think this communicate somehow with Luana also.
No, it's true. And like you mentioned the thing about her relationships reflecting the way she felt about herself and how she hurts herself. That comes through, I think, in the scenes where like there's the scars that she has on her body. Like it starts with little scratches, but then they become bigger and bigger and they become these big festering wounds. And there's scenes where she's picking at the scars, you know, like she's not treating them, and like no one else can see the scars. Like we, the audience, sees them, but no one else in the film, the characters themselves don't see the scars, and they don't acknowledge them because it's talking to about it's showing the audience the internal hurt that Virginia has, you know, like the depression, the anxiety, the lack of self-confidence, you know, the insecurities. And so like she picks at them throughout the film. And it's, as you said, it's about the hurt that she gives herself, because in hurting Luana, she's hurting herself, you know, because she sees Luana as the person she wants to be. So if she's hurting the person she wants to be, like she's hurting herself at the end.
Exactly. And we try to, through those subjective perspectives of the wounds that everybody has on the script, to bring out to the first layer like a macro reality of our society, politics and chauvinism, and how they connect, control us, even our feelings. So it was pretty complex to construct all of those humanity, because Virginia seems to be like 3 different characters instead of just one. So I basically worked on a high euphoria, a deep depression, and a kind of a dissociation crisis. So I think when she's getting closer to the dissociation part, the ones are getting bigger, and she's she can really touch it.
You're right.
It's palpable.
It's more palpable, and it's more, I think that's when the sadness really sets in for me, because as the film goes on and as like it's revealed all of these toxic relationships that Virginia is in, because at the beginning of the film we don't realize just how toxic these relationships are, you know, like we think, oh, it's just a teenager having a party, but you realize everyone that she's in a relationship with, except for Xiomara, is toxic, because even the relationship she has with Patricia, with her own mother, is toxic in a way, because Patricia in a way envies her own daughter, you know, she wants Virginia. Like there's a scene where they like Patricia puts on Virginia's dress, but then also Virginia puts on her own mother's dress during a point of the party, and it speaks to how like Virginia, like she has no really truly healthy relationships with the people that she should have the healthiest relationships with. And like, as you mentioned, the disassociation, and now that's, I think those scenes come up when her relationship with Nicholas, you know, like there's scenes with Nicholas, like these scenes are so intense and they really disturbed me because because it talks about intimate partner violence amongst teenagers. And this is something that people don't acknowledge as much as they should. Like when you talk about domestic violence, people talk about it between married couples and older, more mature couples. But like young girls, a lot of young girls are subjected to domestic violence from their own boyfriends, you know, like they're physically abusive, sexually abusive, and verbally abusive, and emotionally and mentally abusive. And Virginia goes through all of these forms of abuse and of being subjugated and oppressed by Nicholas. So first I want to talk about, there's this scene, and this is the scene in the bedroom. This is the scene that was, I'll be honest with you, I actually had to pause the film and take a moment and collect myself, because that scene is so intense and it was so disturbing for me. So for you, what was your preparation for you? Because I know that Caroline and Mari talked about having a psychologist on set that provided that safe space for you and for the cast. So talk first about, I think I want to talk first about having that safe space and the importance of that for you, and being able to have a professional psychologist to speak to, and then we'll get into that particular scene.
Okay, right. Yeah, for sure. We were reaching so sensible themes that definitely we don't want to romanticize and any aspects of it. So we asked for therapists and psychiatrists to guide us into a more realistic way, because our main goal is to really have a social function, and it's only a social function when you can connect with people, when it's real and you can make them feel. And people don't connect only with a bunch of words instead of a story. They connect because it made them feel some way. So we worked together intensively, and specifically talking about this scene, we rehearsed it a lot. I think maybe 2 weeks. Carol, Michelle, that is who played Nicholas, and I, with the guy who prepared us, with Carol, and we rehearsed in all the subjective layers also, to find this dominative game of power that they have, and then we shot, I think, over 15 takes, and the one that Carol picked it was exactly the one that Michelle totally shocked me, because we were kind of doing the same choreography and movements, and we were in a safe space. I totally trust him, and he trusted me, and our set was amazing. It was, in fact, the first set that I had that it was majority female set, which is too rare, super rare within our industry. So we were completely confident and happy to be in a safe spot, in a face team. So we were totally diving into. And Michelle and I, we shot over 15 takes, and then he just did a bunch of different movements, and he shot so loud that shocked me. And so it was really a real reaction, like an exercise that I put myself into it, especially being a woman in Brazil, and being through, like, I've been through some experience, and I could gather all of those inside of Virginia's feeling.
Yeah, I always, when I watch scenes like that, I'm always aware of how intense it is for the cast and for the crew, because being on a scene like on a set like that and dealing with a scene like that takes so much out of you, you know, like, and it requires, as you said, it requires so much trust, because you're being extremely vulnerable in the moment, and it's the scene, especially scenes like this where sex is involved with the violence itself. Like, I think for women, like, that's something, like, for us, that's a situation that for us we know is almost too real, you know, because we're vulnerable, and like we know that we never know what any man can do when we're in a with them. So like, even, and people will say, oh, it's just acting. I'm like, there's acting up to a certain point, but as you were saying, like, you still have to be in a frame of mind where you, as you said, like you were saying, like, even I want to say, like, I'm always just aware of like how much work it takes, you know, like how much that the toll it can take on you mentally and physically. And I'm always appreciative of like actors like you putting yourself out there, because like, you're telling a story that needs to be told. And like within this film, like one of the messages that Caroline is hoping to talk about is, again, the domestic violence amongst young people, you know, and she's addressing real world situations. And like for you have to put yourself in that spot so that the story can be told, so that it can then create a discussion in real life for people to talk about and to acknowledge and to see.
For sure. Yeah, our main goal is to promote those tough debates and to boost our transformation somehow through our characters and circumstance. So yeah, it was hard to be there, but we were like being a vehicle for something bigger. And yeah, we reached the worst masculinity, talking about preconceptions and violence through male characters. And it's pretty important, it's urgent to approach those complex layers. And for us Brazilian, there is a special connection because, you know, we had like in our 4 last years a former president who could gather all of those rotten layers. So yeah, there is a masculinity that it might be showed and rethink it.
Yeah, the film definitely shows the different types of toxic masculinity archetypes you can see in society, because there's Nicholas, who's sexually abusive to Virginia. There is the father, who we see is physically abusive to the mother, you know. Then there's their friend, who is just obsessed with violence and guns. And like, again, the film is talking about none of these characters are who they appear on the surface, you know. Like we get to see, like, people look at like these big expensive condominiums and the wealth and the status and like the positions that these characters hold. Like Virginia's father is a judge, you know, and like they think, oh, their lives are perfect, you know, like their lives are is like good, glamorous, going to parties, driving these big cars, like, you know, going to all these like these expensive private schools and whatever. But you don't know that behind the doors there's situations like this, you know. There's women and girls being abused, there's racism, there's the sexism, you know, there's the colorism, there's all of these like terribly destructive behaviors and are being exhibited, and it takes a mental toll on the most vulnerable within those spaces. And in this situation is Virginia. And like it ought to, and as we say, it takes a toll on Virginia in like the worst way, you know. And like where she eventually, and this isn't a spoiler because it's in the film synopsis, but like she dies, you know. And like her death is, I think it's not flipping, but I mean, like she dies. Because I'm thinking, I have people that say, "Oh, this is spoiler." I'm like, no, Caroline, it's in the film synopsis. Like it's really,
yeah, it is. It's not a spoiler.
You know, but the thing is that she dies, but you don't know which of any of these circumstances led directly to her death, you know. You wonder, is it the relationship with her mother, you know? Is it what happened with Nicholas that night? Is it the relationship with the neglect from her father, because her father isn't there, you know? She only talks to him on the phone because he's like working overseas and like she rarely sees him. Is it the neglect from that? Is it like this relationship with Luana, where it's like Luana is the safest person she has in her life, but even then, like their relationship isn't perfect, you know. As we've discussed, their relationship is filled with toxicity, it's filled with jealousy, you know, it's filled with envy, and like that. All of these things take a toll on Virginia, clearly, because we're seeing it in the wounds and the scars. But that thing is, like, we don't know exactly what happened. And one of the things that, like, even when I was thinking about the film this morning to prep for this interview, I was still, in my mind, I'm still thinking, is accidental. Like it was an accidental death, you know, like it wasn't, but it wasn't happening. But then you think to yourself, like, does that make it better than if it was intentional, you know? Because like this is just like, this girl never had a chance to flourish, you know, like she never had a chance to see the world in a way that could have been better, you know. She didn't get a chance to like seek help from anyone. She didn't get a chance to even tell anyone about how much pain she was in. And then you're just thinking about all the potential fallout from that, because her mother starts to spiral afterwards. Luana is filled with guilt because Luana doesn't know if she led directly to this death. And then like Nicholas, like he has his own demons that he's fighting with and his own situations. And like, and then that's the other thing about the film. The film is talking about how the death of one person affects so many people in so many different ways.
Exactly. I don't know if we're going through how those sensible themes associated with suicide, it will give like a spoiler. Should I?
No, go ahead. Let's go. This is how I do my interviews anyway. I'm like, let's go. Let's get.
Okay, let's dig in. So, because I really think it's sad to witness how even in 2023 it's still a taboo to talk about suicide, because people keep connecting it with insanity. So it's urgent for us to promote those debates and to do either talking about interpretation or even like this kind of subject. In my opinion, it's more important to have like good questions than to have the right answers, to promote exchange and to show people that their lives really are important and that they are integrated and belonging, you know, because what I learned the most of suicide is, above all, it's an act of communication. Virginia wasn't able to talk about her pains, and people around her weren't able to notice. So this tragic act turned to be the sentence that she couldn't say aloud, and that's so sad. So we keep thinking like, oh, and we could do different, you know. Which are your discharge valves when you're tangled? Who can you count on? With who can you count on? What are the most difficult sentence for you to say? Like, I love you, please help me. No, I won't deliver my energy into this right now. I think to reflect on all of this can create a safe space for people. And this instability, this, first of all, those plurality of all of those characters gave us the possibility to work with every single scene could be the last one. But yeah, this instability added with a lack of empathy and a lack of support facilitated the scenario for Virginia finds comfort doing abusing substance. I can say it like that. Especially talking about amphetamines, that was like really inside of the scene, all of the film. And it's pretty important also to say like how do they affect, how amphetamines stimulate the central nervous system and try to remove pain, try to dwindle weakness, but at the same time we can find on body some symptoms like handshakes, shaking hands, dry mouth, irritability that connects Virginia directly with her dissociation crisis. So Virginia was a roller coaster of emotion. At the same time, she was a victim and the aggressor. She was a kid begging for help, and she was an animal trying to stop her pain. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but
no, you did. You answered it perfectly, because like the like what you said about the suicide, the action being the sentence that she couldn't get say. I think that's said beautifully, because like for people who even before they even commit suicide, but there's even if they don't, like for people who are severely depressed and have a lot of mental or physical disabilities and disorders, like suicidal ideations, like there's so much that leads even up to that point, like it's not a sudden and instantaneous decision. There's so much that people have to go through before they even get to that point. And I remember even when I was younger, when I didn't fully understand it, but I remember like I'm 39 years old now, right? So I was born in 1983, but I remember when how suicide was talked about in media, was people would say like people who committed suicide were cowards, and it's like, there is nothing cowardly about committing suicide. Nothing. Yeah. It is like it's such a moment. I think it is the most desperate anyone can do, because like this is the point where they think that there literally is no other option, no other way out for them.
Yeah.
With the life that they have. And in Virginia's point, and in Virginia's case, like she's 17 years old. This is her birthday. She's at a party surrounded by all of these young people. DJ is there, music is there, food, like drinks, like everyone is dressed perfectly. She's in this beautiful dress. And like, even in that moment, she begins to feel like, what is the purpose of this? And it's just, and that's the most heartbreaking thing. Is just like, it shows you that there are people, like, no matter how many people they're around, it doesn't matter how much wealth they have, it doesn't matter what expensive clothes they're wearing, like comes down to it, it's all about the mental, where people are mentally and emotionally. And that's like, to take all that away, and it's just like, that's the thing, that's Virginia is. And like, no one saw how much she was struggling in those moments, because no one was really paying attention to her.
Yeah. And I think people aren't used to allow themselves to feel sadness, because we live in an addictive society that forces all the time to be happy, productive, monetized. So we try to find some discharge valves, for example, like medicine that tries to remove or to numb pain. And because it's really hard to look inside. But yeah, I think it's a combination of factors, a biological, psychological, religious, cultural, and that sometimes culminate into a manifestation against itself. And the person, Virginia, she didn't feel, she felt outside from itself, fragmented with a cranky ego, and that facilitated the scenario for her to hurt herself. And mostly of the time, suicide appears like in a combination of factors with other disorders like depression or borderline or schizophrenia and so on. So yeah, she in her case, it was like a mixture of alcohol and amphetamines that brought her close to dissociation. And it was, she could find comfort in the idea of death, because it would end it up with all of those feelings that she could not bear. It was unbearable.
No, it's true. And that's I think the saddest thing about it is like, she didn't have an opportunity, or she didn't think that there was anyone that she could talk to and that she could confide in, that she didn't have a way out. And I think that's the main, also the main themes of the film is about talking. I think it's talking about paying attention to people and paying attention to the signs that they don't show. And like, it's about, don't get confused about how people, about the wealth of what the outside thing, like pay more attention to the person themselves, like look in their eyes, listen to the words they say, listen to the words they don't say, like read between the lines and look for the context clues.
Exactly.
And like at the end, like I think like sadly Virginia didn't make it, but like for the other characters, I see the way how the film ended it, I see it as just like a cautionary tale. It's about, okay, so Virginia didn't make it, but now this is a chance for you to pay attention to the other character, to the other people, pay attention to Patricia, pay attention to Luana, pay attention to Nicholas. so that what happened to Virginia doesn't happen to them?
Ooh, I just had goosebumps. Yeah, you're right. It's a chance to restart. It's a chance to connect, to be present, to pay attention in each other. And I'm obsessed with Brené Brown's research. And she said, I want to quote her right now, because she says, like, don't you walk through the world looking for evidence that you aren't enough, because you'll always find it. Don't you walk through the world looking for evidence that you don't belong, because you'll always find it. Our worth and belonging are negotiable. I know who I am. I'm clear about that. And I won't negotiate this with you. I can negotiate a contract with you, but I'm not going to negotiate who I am with you, because then maybe I can fit on your plans, but I no longer belong to myself.
Oh.
Yeah, I love her. She's perfect. Yes. But I do think it fits so well on Virginia's and Nicola's and Luana's and Gabriel's, Patricia's life. It's just and it's a frame of life of our contemporary youthness, and how it's urgent to really reframe it all, to really pay attention and to be present and to be real.
No, I agree completely. I'm like the quote that you said, there's something that I also just say that's kind of similar, where like I always tell people my existence is not up for debate. My happiness is not up for debate. Like I always tell people, I'm not going to debate my right to exist with anyone. I'm not going to debate my right to be happy and pursue my happiness with anyone. And it's the same thing, it's just like, there will always be people to tell us that we don't belong. There will always be people to tell us that we can't succeed, that we can't make it, that we can't live the lives that we have a right to. So don't go looking for them, because you will find the answer. So like like what you were saying, I think it's the perfect way to wrap up, is like, do the best you can to make yourself happy, and seek help. I think that's the most important thing too. Like if you're struggling, the most important thing is to reach out to someone, reach out to someone who is going to listen and encourage you and also guide you in the right way. Because there are people who, if you reach out to them, they'll use your vulnerability as a tool against you. Look for the people who support you and truly want the best for you.
Exactly, Caroline. You're just perfect.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today, Bella. This was a great conversation. Have fun.
Thank you. I'm flattered to be here, and I had a great time. Thank you, Caroline. It was amazing.
Thank you. I wish all the success for you and for the cast and everyone. Like, but I know you didn't go to Austin. Are you going to go? Are there any plans to attend any other film festivals that the film will be showing at?
We don't know yet, but I will let you know whenever we have an official achievement.
No, great. If you end up in at TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival, I'm gonna be there because I live in Toronto. So I hope that we do get to meet each other one day.
That's amazing. Yeah, I would love to. I'm crossing fingers.
Yes, thank you so much, and all the best for you. Much success to you and to everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.